What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So it is Monday for me, probably not for you guys because I'm trying to get in the habit of uploading videos a little bit after I create them instead of the day of, because it makes a lot less workload for me. But I just walked out of the gym, getting ready to head to the bowling alley and put in some work. I'll see you guys in a little bit. The biggest thing for you guys to remember, and this applies to anything really, if there's something out there that you want to go for, a dream that you have, a job that you're trying to do, anything really, skill is only developed by spending hours upon hours of beating on your craft. I mean, you have to be very dedicated to it. And for me personally, that's the biggest thing that I've began to understand on my journey over the last 3 years especially. When I came back to bowling, about 6-7 years ago now? Initially, I came back to bowling just because it was something that I really did enjoy when I was younger. And then as I got more and more involved in it, I realized, when I was a kid, I do remember that I wanted to bowl on the PBA. I just didn't realize how tough it would be to get there. As I got more and more involved, I slowly began to realize that I can't get there unless I dedicate thousands of hours to not only getting better at the sport, but to increasing my skill level at the sport. Talent is natural. Some people have talent in some areas, other people have talent in other areas, and there's nothing wrong with talent. But if you want to have skill, you got to put in the work, put in the effort. So today's plan is to work on my speed, kind of building off of what I finished with last week on Friday. Towards the end of my practice there, I started to work on increasing my pace to the foul line, trying to get my feet moving as quickly as possible. One of the things you guys need to think about, as a two-handed bowler, this is especially true, but the shorter you are, the harder it is for you to generate ball speed. Just because you don't have very long levers in your arms, you don't have very long legs to generate big steps with your feet, so it's really, really hard to generate speed. Well, you counteract that is by moving very quickly to the foul line. And you'll notice this with a lot of the shorter two-handers on tour as well. There's a few of them out there. If you watch them real closely because of their height, they really get moving to that foul line. Now, obviously, the exact opposite is true if you're taller. So if you're taller, you got longer arms, longer legs. That means your swing is a little bit longer. It's easier to generate that power to the foul line with fewer steps. So today, I'm actually going to work on adding more steps to my overall approach to increase my foot speed to the foul line. Adding more steps will hopefully help me kind of get moving rapidly. I'm going to, of course, start with my pipe and practice some approaches with those added extra steps in there, and we'll get warmed up, and I'll see you guys in a few minutes. So the plan is, now that I've kind of warmed up with those added steps, I'm going to start off with practicing my spares. Just to get myself moving and kind of used to those added steps and that increased pacing. After that, I'm going to actually switch to throwing my solid reactive balls, because solid balls, it's easier to tell whether or not you're getting it down the lane faster or slower, because they really like to grip the lane. So here we go, game number 1, all spares. Okay, so obviously, as you can see there, I threw a lot of gutters as I was working on that. I actually spent almost 2 games focusing on just shooting spares and increasing my amount of steps and pace to the line. If you're wondering why that happened, it's because when you're adding more steps and trying to move faster, a lot of your mechanics change. And until you kind of get your rhythm and your feel for what that change is going to be like, you kind of struggle a little bit. So the whole first game, I think I guttered pretty much every single frame all the way up until the 7th frame. Then I started to kind of get my rhythm a little bit, and then I started to get my spare ball online. And then now that I'm in game 2, I'm doing so much better as far as getting my rhythm, projecting the ball to the right spot. So, okay, feel pretty good about it. Now I'm going to move on to throwing my solid equipment. And just the same idea. I'm not focused on anything else right now except increasing my pace to the line with those added steps. I'm just going to release the ball normally how I would release it. And what I'm looking to do is gain hopefully 1.5 miles an hour, maybe 1 mile an hour on my ball speed. So cross your fingers. So I think that shot right there was the most telltale shot. You know, basically giving me all the information I needed about what's going on. So the lanes are pretty dry right now. You know, yesterday was pretty busy for the center, so they had a lot of open bowlers out here. The oil's really beat up. I was able to get the strongest symmetrical solid ball that I have clean through the front, down the lane to the point where it almost made it to the pocket. Now, if I would have been throwing at my normal speed that I'm used to, that ball would have hooked so much it would have taken out the 7 pin. So I have seen an improvement. Okay, so overall I'm feeling pretty good with this change. My body's starting to get more and more used to it. The only problem I'm noticing, you can kind of hear it, my endurance. You know, moving my feet so much faster. I'm essentially more or less running to the foul line every time, and that's gonna impede my endurance a little bit because I'm not used to going that fast. Now, if you're wondering, how am I gonna fix that? Well, at the gym, I'm gonna be spending more time jump roping because that is meant to increase my cardiovascular endurance. So I usually spend about 5 minutes prior to my workout just doing jump rope. I think I'm going to try and increase that to 10. That's a lot of jump rope, but I'm going to have to do it slowly. You know, right now I'm getting to about 4 minutes before I get really exhausted and I have to slow down a little bit or even take a minor break to finish out the 5 minutes. So it's going to be adding basically 1 minute every week until I can get up to that full 10 of not stopping. That should help. I'm going to go ahead and move on to my pearl balls because it is so dry out there that even though I'm throwing faster, these solid balls are just hooking and rolling almost the entire length of the lane. So I'm going to grab my pearl stuff and we'll see just how squared up I can get. Now normally, if I was throwing my normal speed, even with a pearl ball in my hand, I'd still have to be pretty far left. So what I'm looking here to find out is whether or not I can square everything up on these drier conditions. Well, I wasn't able to really move right, just because the lanes are, you know, that dry. But I could definitely see the ball was getting the length that I need so I can have consistent ball shape. And actually there, at one point, I threw a 3-step just to kind of see how the ball would react with a slower ball speed. Which, by the way, if you're wondering, as a two-hander, if you want to reduce your ball speed, just go to a 3-step, honestly, in most cases, because that's easier to do than trying to slow everything down throughout the whole approach. Of course, that depends on a lot of factors, but that's what I do. honestly, the weirdest thing, or the thing that feels the weirdest right now, is carrying the ball so long, because being short and having short levers, if I was to start my swing in my second step, like I would normally do for 5 steps, I would complete my swing way too far away from the foul line and I wouldn't be able to finish my approach. So I'm having to hold on to that ball pretty much through the first 3.5, 4 steps before I start the swing to sync everything up, and that feels a little awkward. Something that I'll get used to definitely as I keep working on this. Well guys, overall, really good practice. Towards the end there, I did take some close-up video of my shots, and I put it into an app that I have on my phone so I could figure out whether or not I was getting an increase in ball speed. And what I did is I took 3 shots at my old start location on the approach and then saved that video, and then I took 3 more shots with my new starting location on the approach and saved that video. Then I compared the two. And at my original starting location, even if I'm trying to move my feet really fast, the best ball speed I can gain is about 18 to 18.3 of launch speed, and that ends up having the ball when it contacts the pins at about 15 miles an hour. So that's overall pretty slow, especially if you consider my rev rate is 450 to 500 in that range. Now, when I backed up on the approach, added 2 steps and started trying to get my feet to go much faster, that brought my launch speed up to the 20.5 to 20.7 mile an hour range. And at the pins, we got to about 16.5 was the fastest I could get it. Now, keep in mind the amount of speed you get at the pins is going to be dependent, of course, on a lot of variables. The lanes were dry out here, so the ball was slowing down a ton as it was going down the lane. With some oil out there, I'll probably get a much faster speed at the pins with my ball. So overall, a humongous improvement. Definitely something that I'm going to add to my game and keep working on getting more consistent at. You know, like I said earlier, because I added extra steps, that changed when I got the ball into the swing. Well, actually, technically, it didn't change when I get the ball into the swing. I get the ball into the swing at the same point, but what it is I'm having to hold on to the ball for 2 additional steps, and that feels really strange. But I started getting more and more used to it, and as I got more and more used to it, my body just kind of started liking it after a while, and I started to actually hit my intended ball lines. In the beginning, though, as you saw in my spare practice, and as I started throwing shots, I was all over the place. But the only way to really improve that is to actually practice probably the first 4 steps of the approach. So normally I would do a 5-step approach, but now I'm up to a 7-step approach because I added 2. And what I think I'm going to do tomorrow actually is come here and do some focused training on those first 4 steps, because those first 4 steps, of course, is where I begin the motion of the ball, and that's also where I have to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. So if I practice that, it's going to make it feel just a lot better for me overall. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching the video today. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton. Share the video as well. If you got some friends who want to see some good two-handed content, go ahead and share it with them. Just help spread the word for my channel if you could. That would be great to help me grow. Leave a like and a comment below. And as I've said before, don't forget about the Patreon memberships and the channel memberships. Good news is my merchandise has finally shipped, so it's on its way to my house, and I will hopefully have some samples to look at here before too much longer, and then I'll have the store available for you guys, I'm hoping by next week. We'll see. I'll see you guys in the next video.